Hello, everybody. This is Holger Mueller in the cab with a surprise guest, my colleague Chris Kanaracus. You pronounce it right?
You should know by now.
Yeah, I should know by now, but we never seldom speak to each other. We've never done a video in a car together, right? So sharing our takeaways of Workday Rising, which is still going on tomorrow here in Chicago with terrible weather. Well, it's not snowing, so we won't be complaining about this. Um, Workday Rising, right? Bigger, better, improved. Well, bigger definitively, right? I missed one. Oh, thank you. Hotspot fell away. We need the hotspot. I was there. I missed last year and it was about 5,000, and it was in Las Vegas, I think. So much bigger affair. Almost 9,000 people is what they shared.
Yeah.
Lots of partners, basically who's who of all the SIs showing things. Lots of smaller integration vendors. And then the complementary vendors being there. Also payroll vendors, right? Big partnership with ADP. So really big show floor at McCormick Plaza. Any first takeaways, impressions you had, Chris, you want to share?
You know, I've been thinking about this for the last couple of days that we were here. The keynote was smooth and polished, as we expected. And they introduced a lot of new technologies and things in the pipeline. But the one thing that drew applause from the crowd was some OCR technology that's going to help people put in their expense reports. And that's not to demean or diminish what Workday's working on as far as emerging tech, but it speaks to their audience of customers and what their pain points really are. And I think the crowd seemed to take all the new stuff in and, just didn't get the same reaction.
That's a great point, is that sometimes seeing all the new stuff as an analyst, you think, what is cutting edge? And the cutting edge for the user base is very different, right?
Yeah.
And on the flip side, right, I mean, OCR, scanning of receipts, been around a long time. I think Workday used it as an example for how can machine learning make the life of users better. So good example, and hit the tone of the audience in the keynote, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't show too much software in the keynote. It was like one of these mixed PowerPoint software demos, which I never like. I like to see the real thing. I don't care if it crashes, but lots of future stuff, right? I mean, the big takeaway from my side was, and I love it when my two research areas converge of future of work and HCM and next generation application is the Workday cloud platform, right? So, which is Workday's PaaS. Interesting reversal in strategy. I asked Anil Bushri 3 or even 4 years ago at a tech summit if Workday would ever do a PaaS, and he said no. And then he thought about it a little bit and said maybe a PaaS of little p, right?
Yeah.
But what we learned today from the authorities like Dan Beck and John Ruggiero, who did also the keynote, is it's going to be a pure PaaS with a big P. You will be able to build your standalone applications on this. So beyond the usual extend and integrate scenarios, you can build your own things.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to note that it'll be a while yet before it is that big P PaaS. I think I'd make the argument that what they have now is more the next iteration of their extensibility architecture that was already there for years in the product.
Well, and you need that extensibility, right? And the good point. It's going to be a while, right? So Anil Bushri in a Q&A said he doesn't expect ISVs to start building in less than a year. The whole platform itself is in kind of like controlled beta with 6 customers. They want to expand to fast followers in March. So Workday Rising 2018 in a year should be really a pulse. They showed and shared, and we saw them in demo booth, right? Some of the demo applications, right? A customer wanted to extend their badging process. Customer wanted to provide mobile feedback for performance management. We saw a business card requirement application, and the whole thing starts with an API catalog, which actually wasn't talked so much, but we saw it at the booth, so it's I think it's real. And basically, the combination of the API with the presentation service, which is the way how Workday renders their UIs, and it's all REST-based, which is very, very powerful. Yeah, because the other thing then, leveraging the same things along the same lines, right, is the new people experience coming from the HR side to a certain point, which is like a new portal, yes, another portal, but this one has REST-based APIs allowing third parties to expose their content, right? So the battle for the who owns the employee portal in the enterprise is going to be a little, the level of battle is going to be raised, right? And personally, I'm biased. I would like to see the HR applications being the employee directory to look up stuff, but that hasn't happened all the time, or isn't the case all the time, right? The Active Directory is the higher ground. There's other applications. People look into the email system and so on. So that's a hard thing to do. What did you see on the HR side? Anything interesting?
Not really my bailiwick. What caught my eye was Prism Analytics. Something they announced a year ago.
Right. Out of the acquisition of Platfora.
Yeah. And what we learned this year is that it's in limited availability now. They have a handful of customers using it. They're going to try to prove out the scalability and so forth and the stability.
And to add a lot of things, right? We learned from David Clark, who's always a clear speaker. I always love this, right? That many things which Workday requires to run successfully weren't part of the platform. So he even positioned more of an acqui-hire, which is interesting to see and explains why it's taking quite a lot of time.
Exactly. Yeah, he told me much the same thing. But one could make I think a fair argument that they're late with this kind of thing. They won't have data discovery until next year. That's table stakes now at this point. Maybe their competitors already have that.
The fascinating thing to me is, why do SaaS vendors even have to go into all this data management? Well, there's a couple of announcements this fall in this area, and why not partner with the leading tool there and to focus on application capabilities and focus on getting machine learning, which brings us to the next topic, right? So machine learning is a big topic, like at every conference. Last year Workday showed a voice demo. This year they didn't, right? So it's kind of like surprising. The only HCM conference without a keynote, without a voice demo. They showed the chatbot, right, which is the Workday bot. I hopefully got this right name-wise. So Workday Voice and Bot. Voice is going to be agnostic of the paradigm. So the capabilities coming around HR, we spoke to Barbara McCann, are going to be around instant feedback, right? That makes certainly sense. And discovering more about the employee, like give me the phone number of Chris, or how do I spell Kanaracus again, right? So, which I was going for live here today. So I know that's supported, and with a native voice on the device. So if you be on an Apple device, it's going to be Siri. It's going to be Google Assistant. If you're going to be on Google or OK Google, it's going to be Cortana when you're on a Windows PC. And they didn't say what they're going to do on Mac OS, right? I think they support Mac OS at some point at least. But yeah, so chat is the important thing, right? To expose your APIs in a totally different way. The traditional enterprise UI is dead. Workday confirms the same thing. With a relatively smallish footprint, right? Generally, it's like a red thread. Workday is pretty conservative. What I picked up on the HR side is the good progress on learning, which was a new module they unveiled last year, which has now about 200 customers implementing and live. And more things, more on the tiny edges around talent management, concepts around recruiting, more kind of the relationship management, all coming in 29 is available now, and 30 which is coming out next year.
Yeah, speaking of learning, that's a good way for us to transition to talk about Workday's move to the public cloud.
Exactly.
Because learning, a lot of the components of that are being called from AWS now.
Correct. All the content is there, all the streaming, all the level of service done there. Significant, making life easier for Workday itself. And the big announcement was at reInvent last year that Workday is supporting AWS. The first showcase is in Montreal. They talk about the customer now openly. It's Jardin. I think it's a magazine store, right? You live closer to Canada than me. Okay, you don't go shopping in Montreal? Well, no, and they're implementing right now. So Workday's technology platform runs on AWS, which is a major achievement to a certain point. And we had a chance in the Q&A to ask Anil and the other executives, asked like when's going to be parity, when there's going to be more Workday load running in the cloud than in Workday data centers. And the answer was pretty conservative, 5 to 7 years, right? That's a long time out. That is 2-3 hardware refresh cycles happening in the Workday cloud out. And lots of people answered my question, which was funny, right? Which always shows you answered a good question when 4 people jump in, right?
Sure.
And the CEO has to clarify at the end with like expectation, like usually people like to put the cloud to somewhere else, right? So the answer was, oh yeah, and in Europe and in Asia we see a lot. And then Chado Fernandez from Europe said, oh, well, Europe is kind of conservative. I think Asia more, right? I would have loved to see the Asia head saying, well, I guess I am going to use public cloud. But I think the key thing is moving to public IaaS, which all the vendors are doing. Allows them to save significant capex resources, capabilities, in regards which they hopefully then can put into product development, because so many things have to happen there.
Absolutely. I was taken aback by the 5 to 7 year prediction. I really don't think it's going to take that long. And that's
Yeah, the interesting thing was he said there might be some things, because he said we're actively going to take dependencies. Also interesting, because we also, we don't want to take dependencies. So it was, I think, honest and truthful from Anil to say we'll take dependencies on things which are built in the public cloud, which we cannot run on premise or can't build on premise.
Right.
And that will create a dependency, and that capability might only be available and move customers more to a public cloud deployment.
Yeah, definitely.
Any concerns? What do we have to look out? They would share?
Concerns.
Otherwise, I go first and you can think.
You go first and I'll
all right. So it's all new stuff, right? So everything like Workday is effectively, I mean, everything runs on the old things, but it's effective in transition to a new platform, to new IaaS, to a new way of building the applications, a new way to extend the application. Very important that they have a pass. I always say in the times of business process uncertainty that we live in right now, where we don't know how to really run any business process in the 21st century, or an HR or people-related process, I need to be able to extend this thing, maybe even build from scratch, right? You see like the big internet properties, the Facebooks, the Googles, they build all the HR solutions themselves, right? So other companies will follow suit in this current phase of that and setting on top of APIs. But everything is new, so take everything with a grain of salt and understand that this is a vendor who is luckily, congratulations with platforming, because every platform is 10, 15 years old like theirs has been successful, but it's also getting old, and people make different technology decisions today than they did 10, 15 years ago, or 15 years ago in the case of Workday, which everybody can run. So make sure that what you see is real and can be used and fits the requirements of your enterprise, my point.
Yeah, so my one concern, I guess, as you put it, would be what's going on with Workday Student.
Yep.
They announced that a full complement of apps was ready last year, and we at Constellation figured that they would show at least one live customer this year's Rising, a full year later.
Yep.
And they didn't. They didn't even talk about it.
Well, in the Q&A, there was an interesting statement by Mike Franson, right, the overall head of product, saying, well, when we started Student, it was all about give us something said by the universities. And now it was like, no, it has to be ready and proven and tested and quality and thought through, like the rest of the Workday products, which is an interesting learning curve, but also shows how hard verticals are. My personal 25 years of building software, become an analyst and doing videos here in cars, is that every time you're moving the horizontal platform, which Workday is trying to do, is in the process of doing, time for verticals is hard, because if you build more vertical functionality in your old paradigm, you have the bigger hole to dig yourself out on the new platform. Yeah. So, and that's what definitely is happening with voice, with machine learning, with move to the public cloud, with their pass, that I would be not surprised if there's a little less foot on the gas pedal on the verticals for Workday, right? No new verticals announced, but the usual PeopleSoft verticals, which are very service-oriented in healthcare and banking, insurance. I forgot there's 3-4 more, but they're very service-oriented, not necessarily manufacturing-oriented.
Right.
Good.
Yep, exactly.
Well, I guess it's from us. Still bad weather, still on traffic jam on the way to O'Hare. Thanks for watching. This was Chris Kanaracus. Find him at Twitter at Chris Kanaracus. He's must be an early person signing up. Holger Mueller wasn't available anymore, so I'm Holger MU, HOLGERMU. Thanks for watching. This was much longer, but hey, special guest. I think I never driven with someone doing a video. Alan Lipovsky may have done a bunch, but it was always stationary. So Chris, you have a leg up on our colleague Alan.
Wow.
Thanks for watching. This is Holger Mueller from Constellation Research, the only analyst that I know of who puts all his comments and notes on Twitter. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.